And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this first day of April Fool's Day. I hope everybody's doing well. We got a great show for you guys today. But before I get into what we're going to talk about today, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we will discuss today. So we will start off the show. We'll talk about the NFL owners meeting, some highlights from that, some key headlines with that. And my sister did not close the door all the way, so now my dog is in the background. Nice. So we'll get into that. We will talk about, in the second part of the show, we will get into talking about the Torpedo bats. I know I talked about that a little bit on Tuesday or yesterday with the Yankees and the controversy around that, but I wanted to just talk more about it. We'll get into that. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about some injury updates surrounding some NBA players, Zion Williamson, Kevin Durant, and Jalen Brunson. Fourth part of the show, we'll get into talking about Juan Soto and his debut with the Mets, and just, you know, the craziness around it, because Yankee fans had a lot to say about it, and there were some overreactions to it. The Mets did win big last night against the Marlins. I know you could probably say, well, it's the Marlins, but still, that was a good win for them, scoring 10 runs last night. So we'll get into all that, and then in the final part of the show, we will get into doing a season overview on the Indianapolis Colts. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the owners' meetings and some of the key headlines surrounding that. So, we have a live studio audience here with my dog now in attendance for this. So hopefully she doesn't start barking because it's going to scare the living daylights out of me. Let's talk about the owners' meeting. So, some key takeaways from it. Now, one of the key takeaways is Mike Tomlin did speak on Aaron Rodgers. That's one of the, now, obviously I have the tush push here, but Aaron Rodgers was a topic of conversation at the owners' meeting. So, Mike Tomlin spoke on it. He talked about how Rodgers and the Steelers had a productive day when Rodgers came to the facility. And, they said they don't necessarily have a deadline for him to make a decision. But there was a video that did surface, and it was of Aaron Rodgers running concepts, throwing some passes to DK Metcalf, running some offensive plays, concepts, like I said. So, when you see that, could he be toying with us, making us believe, like, yeah, he's definitely going to sign with the Steelers and then say he's going to retire? It's possible. But that does show you that if he's working with DK Metcalf, you would imagine that he's going to sign with the Steelers. You would think. So that was something interesting. We'll have to wait and see on that. But that, it's kind of a big deal if you're seeing that. That means that a deal is going to happen at some point. So some of the other things, we did mention the tush push, and we've talked about it on previous shows before. So there is some traction on banning it. Now, we did bring it up briefly yesterday because I, came across a social media post that, it was gaining traction on being banned, and I said that it shouldn't be banned. I've been an advocate for that because, look, is it annoying? Yeah, but It's part of the game. And these defenses have the opportunity to stop it, and they can't. So that's how I feel about it. So there's that. Also, talk about a potential 18-game season. That's going to happen at some point. It's not going to happen next year, but definitely in the near future. So week 1 would be on Labor Day weekend. There would be a second bye week, and this would cause the Super Bowl to be moved to President's Day. So everybody will have off the next day, or most people will have off the next day. And the preseason will be reduced to 2 games. And we know Roger Goodell has spoke about the preseason, and he's not a big fan of it. So at some point, you would imagine that the preseason is going to be gone completely, and it's just going to be all regular season games, which a lot of people will like. I think there'll be some people that'll dislike it because it at least gives players the opportunity to have a dress rehearsal, before they take the field, because then you're just going to end up with a lot of sloppy football. So, we'll have to see what happens there. Also, Thursday Night Football flex scheduling. So that's been approved. They can flex Sunday games into Thursday with a 21-day notice. Now, this is from weeks 13 to 17. Now, we did see that, last year because, you had the Chargers and the Broncos. They got flexed into Thursday, and that ended up being a good game. No team will be required to flex more than once. The max number of Thursday night games per team remains at 2. Now, there's also a uniform policy. Teams can now wear alternate or throwback uniforms 4 times per season. Previously 3. I didn't really know that there was a restriction on that. The Eagles are wearing their throwbacks in the picture I have here for the segment. Honestly, there's a lot of throwbacks that I like. I like the Broncos throwbacks, the Seahawks throwbacks. The Eagles ones here are good. The Giants, I wish the Giants would make their not the ones they wore in week 1. I want to make that clear. The ones they wore against the Commanders at home later in the season, those I think should be their permanent uniforms. I'm trying to think of who else. Yeah, the Steelers, they should bring back the Bumblebee uniforms. Why not? Even though a lot of people say they're ugly, which they are, but still, I think they should bring them back at some point. But yeah, so there's that. Rule changes, so there might be a slight change with the kickoff. Kickoff touchbacks move to the 35-yard line, currently the 30-yard line, to encourage more returns. At some point, you're going to see... All right, my dog just left, so give me just 2 seconds. All right, so that was the breaking news. My dog just left my room, so I just wanted to make sure she hasn't come back in. So, yeah, we actually had, like I said, we had a live studio audience for the first time since I started doing these shows. How about that? But, yeah, so just go back to the regular kickoff. I mean, I don't know what it is what it is, but I think they should just go back to the traditional kickoff. And, if it's a touchback, go to the 20-yard line, and you start from there, But that's just me. Wild card seeding proposal. We did talk about that. Wild card teams could be seeded higher than division winners if they have a better record. We talked about that. Mike Tomlin opposes this, and I 100% agree with him. This was a unique season. 2024 was unique. You had 2 teams that won 14-plus games in the same division. That's not going to happen every single year, so we don't need to change that. And then we talked about the overtime rule change. It'll be applied like it is in the postseason to the regular season, and it would go back to 15 minutes instead of 10. I also think I would throw in there should not be a tie. Completely eliminate ties from the NFL. If it has to go to another quarter, so be it. There should not be ties in the NFL. And I don't think there were any last year. I don't think there were. But still, extend it if both teams do not score in the first quarter of overtime. They have to go to a second quarter. Now, with Kirk Cousins, there was some rumors with him. Could go to the Browns. We've talked about this. We did talk about the Steelers being an option too yesterday. But Browns could be a possibility. Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, even came out and said that the Deshaun Watson trade was a big swing and a miss, and I think that's putting it lightly. You could say a lot worse than that. But, yeah. So we'll see. Kirk Cousins is going to end up on another team. And, all three teams at the top of the draft are considering taking a quarterback. Kind of know this already. Cam Ward could be heading to Tennessee. Browns, if they end up with Kirk Cousins, they probably don't take a quarterback. And maybe, they draft Abdul Carter, they draft Travis Hunter. I feel like Abdul Carter would be a stronger possibility, pairing with Myles Garrett. I also kind of want the Giants to just get Travis Hunter. So, we'll see. But that's basically what went down there at the league meetings. So, let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments. So, we are going to take our first break of the show now, and my camera turned off. So, we'll fix that. When we come back, we will talk about the Torpedo bats. We will get into that conversation. We will talk about it. And, all right, that did not work. We'll talk about the controversy surrounding the Torpedo bats. If they should be banned. I didn't say they should be banned, but there's a lot of people out there that feel like they should, just because, the Yankees were using them. So we will get into all of that. We'll discuss it. And like I said, I will give you, I'll give you my 2 cents on the topic. And I was trying to, like I said, I'm trying to fix the camera before we go to break. If not, okay, we're good. All right, so that's what we'll get into when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please.
And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about the Torpedo bat controversy. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but it really just took over headlines in the sports world, which is a good thing for baseball. It is definitely a good thing for baseball. They definitely need that because the NFL always dominates headlines, and obviously March Madness, we're in the Final Four now. NBA is getting closer to the playoffs. Baseball has just started, and baseball, kind of takes a back seat to a lot of these other events and other sports leagues. So they need this. So I think in a way this is a good thing. But the Torpedo bat, for those that don't know, it's a different kind of bat. It's basically, it's thicker in the sweet spot, and basically it's a bowling pin. That's what it is. So, a lot of players are using it, Many people just think the Yankees are using it, but players started using it last year. And you're going to see more teams start to use this. So, as far as we know, the players that use it now, on the Yankees, you got Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm, Paul Goldschmidt, Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells. And with the Yankees, they were noticing with Anthony Volpe, he was getting jammed on a lot of his swings. So that's why, now he's using this bat. And, he had a 3-run homer the other day. He's gotten off to a good start. The Yankees have gotten off to a good start as it is, not just with Volpe, but that's one thing that was cited. The Cubs, a couple of players, Bellinger used it last year with the Cubs, but Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner used it, and they just scored, I think, 20 runs last night against the A's. Ellie De La Cruz, Jose Trevino used it. Adley Rutschman uses it. He's gotten off to a good start. Ryan Jeffers is using it. Francisco Lindor of the Mets. Davis Schneider of the Blue Jays. Junior Caminero of the Rays. So a lot of players are using this. So basically, yeah, it moves mass closer to the hands, making the bat feel lighter and increasing control. The widest part of the bat, the barrel, is customized to match where a hitter makes the most contact. But it's just, you had everybody go crazy over this because of the offensive explosion that the Yankees put on over the weekend and said, oh, they can't be doing this. What is this? And the Yankees had to get some kind of approval to use them. And they're not the only team that is using them. And, you have people saying, oh, Aaron Judge is using it. So, of course he had the weekend that he had. Aaron Judge is not using the Torpedo bat. Aaron Judge doesn't need to use that. So we could stop that. Okay? Now, it leads to, well, is it going to get outrighted completely? Or is everybody going to use it? Well, everybody's going to use it. But at some point, you would think that baseball is going to say, all right, well, that's enough. We're just going to completely outlaw them because, we can't be having these high-scoring games all the time. Well, first of all, when it comes to the Yankees, and I did mention this yesterday, the reason why they had a good weekend is not because of the Torpedo bats. No. It was because the Brewers' pitching was not good. And in the second and third game, in the first game, you had Freddie Peralta pitch, and he only gave up, 2 runs? Freddie Peralta's a good pitcher. Nestor Cortez, he struggled. Brewers pitching, like I said, in games 2 and 3, they struggled. That's why the Brewers lost. And look at what happened yesterday. The Brewers gave up 11 runs yesterday to the Royals. So, it's not a Yankee thing. It's a Brewer thing. Their pitching is not good right now. They have a ton of injuries to their pitching staff. So, but everybody wants to make a big deal about it because it's the Yankees. And a lot of people don't like the Yankees. And I get it. But if other teams are using it, it's legal. It's not a problem. And you had Trevor McGill of the Brewers, come out and say, well, it's the Yankees, so baseball's going to let it slide. But then you have the manager of the Brewers saying, well, what did he say? I don't know what the exact quote was. It was something like, it's not the wand, it's the magic or something like that. So, Brewers want that, and the Brewers are going to need all the help they can get right now because, like I said, they're giving up a ton of runs this season. Their run differential is not great. Let's see if we can. Yeah, let's look that up quickly. Let's see if I can find it. So right now, you look at the Brewers, and they're 0-4 right now. Their run differential is -32. They have scored 15 runs, and their opponents have scored 47. And they're in last place. So, yeah, not looking good right now for them. But don't blame the Torpedo bats. Blame the pitching. And it's not like these guys are bad players on the Yankees. Paul Goldschmidt, former MVP. Cody Bellinger, former MVP. Anthony Volpe is a solid player. Had a good postseason. Jazz Chisholm's a good player. You got him out of Miami now. You also have to be able to hit. The bat doesn't just hit itself. You got to be the one that is able to make contact with the ball. So, like, I don't get it. But you know what? A lot of people always have things to say. And we're going to talk about that with Juan Soto as well. And I will come to the defense of Soto because it's just, it's ridiculous. But that's the one thing you got to worry about is just you're getting these high-scoring games now because baseball is not a high-scoring sport. That's not what it's meant to be. And we saw that in the juice ball era, especially when you go back to the London series with the Yankees and the Red Sox. How many runs did they score in that game because of the juice balls? You do worry about that. Like, because we saw with pitchers, like, they gained an advantage because of the sticky stuff, but they got rid of that. Pitchers had to adapt. But, and there are certain players that aren't doing good with it. I think Yandy Diaz is a player that is using it, and he didn't get off, and he hasn't gotten off to a good start. So, it's not going to work for everybody. And again, it's legal. If it was illegal, you wouldn't see him. You know who needs it? Because there was a very popular Boston fan that spoke out about it. Rafael Devers probably should use it right now because I don't even think he's gotten a hit yet. He's been striking out like crazy. And then, if there's a Red Sox fan watching this, you could say, well, Garrett Cole got hurt, so Rafael Devers can't own him this year. All right, fair enough. But still, everybody's got something to say. It's completely legal, and don't say that Aaron Judge is using it, because he's not. Aaron Judge doesn't need it. Aaron Judge could use a toothpick and hit the ball 600 feet, the way he's hitting right now to start the year. So, look, it's completely legal. Stop complaining about it. Your team could use it. And when I was watching the Rich Eisen show yesterday, it was said on the show, one of his co-hosts said, and he doesn't like the Yankees. He said, what, my one complaint is that my team didn't figure this out sooner. Yeah. That's the only thing you could say. But, this is coming from the analytics department. So, I know we complain about analytics, but things like this, you got to like. But, yeah, this is a former Yankee analyst, an MIT physicist, Aaron Leonhardt. He came up with this idea. Now he's with the Marlins. And you know what? It's about time the Yankees were ahead of the curve because it seemed like in years, these last several years that they've kind of fell behind in certain areas. They were kind of ahead of the game. So it's only 3 games though. And you know what? Let's see what the Torpedo Bats do tonight for the Yankees against the Diamondbacks because they are going up against the Diamondbacks' top 3 pitchers this upcoming series. They got Corbin Burns tonight. I think Zach Gallen is tomorrow, and then Merrill Kelly on Thursday. So let's see. Let's see if they continue to hit like they did over the weekend. And I guarantee you that is not going to be the case. I'm not going to say that they're going to get swept or anything. Maybe they win tonight, but you will not see the offensive performance that you saw over the weekend in this series against the Diamondbacks. You might see the Diamondbacks tee off a Yankee pitching tonight because, Warren is pitching and, wasn't great in the major leagues last year. Did have a good spring training, but did struggle in his last couple of starts. But we'll see what happens tonight. So that's how I feel with the torpedo bat stuff. I think everybody needs to calm down. Your team is going to use it, and when you see your players start doing good with it, then you're not going to complain. So, let me know what you guys think though about the torpedo bat controversy. Let me know in the comments. So, before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we will get into discussing some injury updates around the NBA to some star players, talk about the impact of those injuries as we near the end of the regular season in the NBA. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about some injury updates around the NBA to some star players. And also, updates on star player coming back, and that is Jalen Brunson. So let's get into the first star player, and that is Zion Williamson. So Zion Williamson, over the last several years, 2019 to 2020, he has played in 24 games. 2020 to 2021, he played in 61 games, missed the entire season in the 2021-2022 season. The 2022-2023 season, 29 games played. Last year, career high, 70 games. And then this year, he has only played in 30 games. He has missed a ton of time over the course of his NBA career. But he has been shut down along with C.J. McCollum. Zion dealing with a lower back contusion. McCollum dealing with a right foot contusion. And yeah, they're done for the year. And it kind of makes sense because the Pelicans are one of the worst teams in the NBA record-wise. They are currently second to last. The Jazz have a worse record than them in the Western Conference. They're 21-54 on the year. And so they shut both of their players down and basically are trying to tank at this point. And they have 7 games left. Clippers, Lakers, Bucks, Nets, Bucks, Heat, Thunder. So there's a lot of losses in there. Now, it's possible they could be a team that gets that top pick. And if they do, well, they could get Cooper Flagg, which, would be pretty good for them. But yeah, it's just, and Zion actually, when he was playing, whenever he does play, I mean, he's really good. He is really good, but he just can't stay healthy. He cannot stay healthy. And he ends his season, again, only playing 30 games. And his stats on the year, he was averaging 24 points a game, 7.2 rebounds, 5.3 assists. I mean, it's good. But it's just, again, can't stay on the court. I don't know if I said he can't stay on the field, but can't stay on the court. But yeah, just unfortunate. And then C.J. McCollum, he was averaging 20.8 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 4 assists. They've had him for a little bit, getting him from the Trailblazers, but yeah, it just hasn't worked out well in New Orleans. So there's that update. But here's the other update. Kevin Durant. So right now, the Suns are currently, looking at the standings, they are a game out of a play-in spot. The Kings have actually passed them. So you have the Mavericks and the Kings both controlling play-in spots. Mavericks, their remaining schedule, they got the Hawks, the Clippers twice, the Lakers, the Raptors, and the Grizzlies. For the Kings, they got the Wizards, the Hornets, the Cavs, the Pistons, the Nuggets, the Clippers, and the Suns. So some tough games down the stretch there. And then for the Suns, the Bucks, they play tonight. Celtics, Knicks, Warriors, Thunder, Spurs, Kings. So, hey, it could come down to that final game of the regular season, Kings against the Suns. So, yeah, that's kind of how it looks at the moment. But, yeah, so Kevin Durant rolled his ankle. He's going to miss about a week. Left ankle sprain. This was in the second half of the game the other night against the Rockets. Now, he sustained the injury while driving to the basket in the third quarter. He landed on Jabari Smith's foot, and that led to his ankle rolling. Kind of similar to what happened with Jalen Brunson when he rolled his ankle when his foot landed on Austin Reeves. He is scheduled for an MRI to assess the damage. It's anticipated he will miss the Suns' upcoming 3-game road trip. And look, the Suns have already, been struggling this year, and, they actually did control the play-in spot at one point. But now with Durant being out and just now how disappointing the team has been, it's going to be tough with him not being there. So Devin Booker's really going to have to step up in his absence, because I don't even think. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. Because is Bradley Beal even playing? Well, let's see. Go to the other night, because I know Bradley Beal is coming off of the bench. I don't know if he was hurt, or am I just lying? Yeah, no, I don't see it. Yeah, so I guess Bradley Beal is also down. If anyone wants to fact check me on that, you can. But yeah, there's been no Bradley Beal. So no Bradley Beal, no Kevin Durant. So yeah, like I said, Devin Booker's really gonna have to pick up the slack there. And the Suns right now, they have lost 3 in a row. They have a 3.5% chance of making the playoffs. Yeah, it's not looking good right now for them. But let's get into the positives. So we do, and actually, quick thing, if the Suns maybe decide, like, if they have virtually no chance of making the playoffs, well, I mean, again, maybe they get eliminated, like, with 1 or 2 games left in the season. But if, actually, I mean, Durant's going to miss a week. If the Suns just don't win any of their games without Durant, you got to wonder, did Durant play his final game in Phoenix? And I think you could say yes. I think you could definitely say yes to that. And I am really curious to see where he ends up in the offseason. And then you got Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has now the ability to resume basketball activities. So he's going to be coming back soon. Don't know when exactly. The timetable is, because could he come back before the postseason? I mean, I would hope, just because, I'm in my fantasy basketball championship right now. But I think we'll definitely see him back for the postseason. That is definitely what's going to happen. He will be back for the postseason, but now it's a matter of, is he going to be back, maybe towards the end of the regular season here. And maybe the Knicks opt to just, keep him out, have him rest up even more, and then, get him back for, the Knicks' first-round matchup, whoever that may be. Now, right now, with the Knicks, they have, they've been treading water without Brunson. I mean, they still have the 3rd seed. They're 3.5 games up on the Pacers. I think they should be okay. They do have the Sixers tonight. They should win that game, but they got a lot of tough games coming up. They got the Cavs twice. They got to deal with Trae Young. I mean, they might play the Suns without Durant. Got the Celtics, the Pistons, and then you got the Nets to finish up the season. But I think they should be okay. I think they finish at the 3, and then that could set up a potential Bucks-Knicks first-round matchup. And the Bucks might not have Dame. So, I kind of would favor the Knicks in that series. And then they'd probably go up against either the Celtics or the Cavs, which I don't like the Knicks' chances in either of those series. I mean, honestly, I think they'd have a better chance of knocking off the Cavs than the Celtics, but I think, the Knicks, for me, their ceiling this year, second round, unfortunately. It's just Knicks fans haven't really been happy at times with the team's performance, but they're going to win 50 games. I mean, they've had a great year. It's just, in some of these games, against the better teams, they have struggled. But you know what? They get Brunson back. They'll be whole. And maybe in the playoffs things change. You never know. But they have really struggled against the top teams. But yeah, those are the injury updates. I mean, the Pelicans really didn't have a chance of doing anything. So, Zion and CJ McCollum being shut down, I mean, that doesn't really jeopardize their season. I mean, their season already was over. Kevin Durant, that's a big deal because the Suns, are right there for a playing spot to sneak in. But, this could really hurt their chances. And, if the Kings widen the gap with them and the Suns continue to lose, well, Durant's probably going to be done for the rest of the year. And, like I said, probably plays his last game in Phoenix. And then for Brunson, definitely be back for the playoffs, but, we'll see if he comes back last couple of games of the regular season. We'll see. But, NBA playoffs around the corner. And we'll make sure to cover it when they start. Midway through April they start. So, that's going to be exciting. But let me know what you guys think about the injury updates. Any thoughts on those? Let me know in the comments. So we will get back to baseball. We are going to talk about Juan Soto in the next segment. Made his Mets debut over the weekend. I'll talk about the series that he had against the Astros. We'll talk about how the Mets did as a team over the weekend. I did bring up their win last night against the Marlins. So that was good for them. They scored a ton of runs. So, it's good. They beat up on the bad teams. That's what you got to do. And it goes for every team in every sport. When you're a good team, you need to beat up on those bad teams because that can make a difference, in a tight playoff race. So, yeah, we're going to get into the Juan Soto stuff because there were just a ton of overreactions over the weekend. And I'll tell you this, I still overreact to things, but now I at least acknowledge that and I try my best not to because let's say what happened over the weekend with the Yankees and the Mets happened, when I was like 12 or something, I'd be all over that. But I have now learned to slow down and kind of sit back and realize it's only 3 games. Well, now it's only been 4 or 5 games, but that's where I'm at. So we'll get into the Juan Soto stuff. We'll talk about all that, his debut, Yankee fans making fun of Met fans overreacting. We'll get into all that stuff when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about Juan Soto making his Mets debut over the weekend. And we'll talk about all the overreactions to that as well. So the Mets went 1-2 against the Astros in the 3-game series in Houston. And there were some parallels to Juan Soto's debut as a Met. And I came to the realization, and I don't know if I said it on the show, I might have, but the Yankees, last year, the Yankees opened up in Houston. Juan Soto made his debut with the Yankees, team from New York. And the Mets, they opened up at home against the Brewers. And this year, Juan Soto makes his debut with his new team, a New York team, the Mets, in Houston. And the Yankees, they start a series at home against the Brewers. Now, it went completely different because the Yankees last year, they swept the Astros. The Mets, I think, got swept by the Brewers. Or they went 1-2, I don't remember. But this year, Yankees swept the Brewers and the Mets went 1-2. But there were so many overreactions to the first game. And I get it. But it's one game. And then, the Mets won the following night. And then they lost the third game. And they ended 1-2 with the Astros. They lost 2 out of 3. But Juan Soto came up in a big spot in the 9th inning. The Mets, like in 2024, they were rallying back. They were getting shut out for the whole game, basically. And Juan Soto came up against Josh Hader, and it basically paralleled, a similar situation to last year. And Juan Soto came through against Hader when he was with the Yankees, and he also threw a guy out at home plate on opening day. That helped, propel the Yankees to a victory on opening day last year. So you thought that Soto was going to come up and deliver again. And Juan Soto did something that, you really didn't see when he, you never really see him do, and that's chase a pitch out of the zone. And that's what happened, and he struck out to end the game. And Yankee fans were so happy about this, that he came up in a big spot and he didn't deliver for his new team. And everybody points to that one at bat. But, like I said, I'm going to come to the defense of Soto. The guy was on base 3 times prior to that. He walked twice. He got a hit in his first at bat. The Mets offense couldn't do anything against Framber Valdez. So let's relax a little bit. And then what happened the following day? Or the next time the Mets played? Yeah. Well, because they were off on Sunday. What happened on Friday? He hit a home run. And he also hit a double off the wall too. Oh wait, that was I think that was Saturday's game. But he hit a home run, and the Mets won that game. They did lose the other night, but again, I think he had their only hit, which was that double off the wall, which was off the Crawford box, and Altuve's playing in left field, and he couldn't make the play. If Altuve was taller, he would have made the play, and if he was a more experienced outfielder, he would have made the play. But no, more so if he was taller. But anyways, Soto's going to have a big year. Now, is he going to have a year like he did with the Yankees last year? I don't think so, but he's going to have a very good year. And again, we have to learn to not overreact. Because yes, the Yankees had a very good weekend. And, my friends who are Yankee fans, had a lot of things to say regarding Soto leaving. I'm more forgiving of him leaving. Again, it does sting a lot that he went to the Mets. But last year was just a very magical year, and I can't bash the guy because I expected it. I expected it being a possibility that he was going to end up leaving, and that's what he did. It just so happens now that he went to a crosstown rival. And the annoying part is, if he went to any other team, let's say he went to the West Coast, went to the Giants, let's say. I mean, he played for the Padres. I'm not going to say the Dodgers. And the Dodgers. Oh, by the way, the Dodgers won again last night. Team's never going to lose a game. We wouldn't hear about him that much. Now, with the Mets, you hear about him all the time. So he's not going anywhere. Gonna have to hear about him for the next, 15 years. So, yeah. But don't overreact. Because I remember 2012. I remember this very clearly. The Yankees got swept by the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Mets swept, I don't know, whoever they played against, they swept. And everyone's like, wow, the Yankees not looking so good. The Mets, they're playing really well. And then what happened? The Yankees made it to the championship series, and the Mets didn't even make the playoffs. Now, I'm not trying to say that that's going to happen this year, but I'm just saying that we can't overreact after one weekend of baseball. Now, look, Juan Soto's got Pete Alonso batting behind him. Pete Alonso is not the same player Aaron Judge is. He's not. He wanted Aaron Judge money. He was never going to get that. Now, Pete Alonso did deliver last night. He hit a grand slam, so that was big for Pete to get it going. The Mets got to get it going offensively. It took them some time. Lindor took him a while to finally get it going, and then he put together a very good season. And, he's off to a little bit of a slow start again, but you figure he's going to get it going. This lineup's going to get it going, and they're going to hit. The Mets are going to hit. And the pitching, honestly, hasn't been that bad. Starting pitching hasn't been that bad. Other than Clay Holmes. David Peterson last night was watching a little bit of the game. He pitched well. And he pitched well for them last year, too. He was a surprise for the Mets last year. The games that they lost over the weekend, they lost to the Astros 2-1. And they lost, what was the game on Thursday? They lost 3-1. They were in the games that they lost. And yeah, you wanted Soto to come through. But there should not be Met fans out there, because I think there are. There are Met fans out there that were already complaining when Soto struck out in a big spot. Are you kidding me? You better not. This guy is going to be great. He is one of the best hitters that I have ever seen. Now, he claims that he's the greatest hitter ever. No, he's not. He's not. But he is one of the greatest hitters ever. His plate discipline, for me, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. And sometimes, it hurts him because, he knows the strike zone better than the umpires, because then the umpires will call things that are, outside the zone that are a strike. And, but he knows the strike zone. And he's going to walk a lot this year. He's going to walk a lot. And you know what? This is going to be big for Pete Alonso, because if Soto's getting on base, you're going to get better pitches to hit. So, and Pete delivered last night. Nimmo hit a home run last night. So, look, the lineup's going to get it going. They just didn't have a great series. But now they got to get right series with the Marlins. Already got off to a good start last night. But, pleased with the overreactions. But I'm telling you, when I go to the game on May 16th, it is going to be insane. Because I didn't go to the game when Robinson Cano came back, and he was getting booed constantly when he went to the Mariners. This is going to be worse than that, because he went to the Mets. And I'm not going to boo him. Now, for people that don't know me, you won't believe me. That's fine. I will not partake in the booing. I'm going to this game because this is going to be a huge game. This is going to be one of the biggest games of the year. And I want to be there for it. And hopefully both New York teams are playing really well at the time. You know, Mets have kind of owned the Yankees recently in the Subway Series. It is going to be must-see TV, and I can't wait. So, look, I'm a Yankee fan that came to the defense of Juan Soto. Now, again, doesn't mean I was happy when he went to the Mets, but look, I'm always going to, bottom line is this, I'm always going to appreciate last year, and, it just, I really wish we could have saw more years with Judge and Soto batting back-to-back, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, so we're going to take our final break of the show now, and when we come back, we will do our season overview on the Indianapolis Colts, and that will take us right to the end of the show for today. So, for one final time today, make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the final part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about the Indianapolis Colts and their season and what they have done in the offseason so far, what they could potentially do in the draft. So the Colts, team that people thought were going to take the next step this year and be in the mix for a wild card, but that ended up not. They finished 8-9 on the year, so they weren't an awful team, but they were average. They were an average team. People were hoping for Anthony Richardson to take that next step. Didn't really play that much in his rookie season, and he was not great. He was not great. So they got off to a tough start, 0-2 on the year. They lose to the Texans in a highly competitive game. Anthony Richardson only completed 9 passes in that game. But it's weird because he struggled with the short intermediate routes or intermediate passes, but like the long passes, I mean, he could chuck the ball 60 yards. He had that one pass to Alec Pierce in the game. He had 3 receptions for 125 yards in the game. But yeah, the Colts ended up losing 29-27. Then they lose to the Malik Willis Packers, 16-10 in Lambeau. Richardson was not great in that game. He threw 3 interceptions. They did win their next 2. They beat Caleb Williams and the Bears. Richardson left the game with an injury. Flacco came in, and they knocked off the Steelers. So they won 27-24. Then Flacco played the following week. They ended up losing to the Jaguars 37-34. Then against the Titans, they won 20-17. Flacco played in that game. And then Richardson did come back for the game against the Dolphins, and they won that game. That game was pretty ugly. They won 16-10. Richardson went 10 of 24 on the season, or 10 of 24 in the game for 129 yards. So yeah, they won that. Then they ended up losing to the Texans in a close game, 23-20. Again, completed 10 passes, 10 of 32. Now, this was the game that Anthony Richardson tapped on his helmet, and he took himself out of the game, which is something that I have never seen before in watching football. You just will, no injury, nothing. Just say, yeah, I got to tap out of this. So that led to him being benched. Flacco came in the following week against the Vikings. They ended up losing that game. They lost against the Bills. So they were 4-6 at that point. Then Richardson came back in for the game against the Jets. They pulled off a comeback win. Richardson definitely looked a little bit better in this game. They ended up losing to the Lions 24-6 the following week, but then they beat the Patriots. Richardson threw a game-winning touchdown, and then they went for 2, and they got it. So that got them to 6-7 at that point. They went into the bye. They came out of the bye, and they had the Broncos had 5 takeaways against them. They lost 31-13, and that was the game where Jonathan Taylor ran in the touchdown and dropped the ball in the end zone. But yeah, Richardson threw 2 interceptions. He went 17-38, and you had Jonathan Taylor fumbled, like I said, Michael Pittman and Adonai Mitchell. They all fumbled. But then they beat the Titans. Richardson went 7 of 11. You know why they won? Because Jonathan Taylor had over 200 yards and had 3 touchdowns. That's why they won the game. So that got them to 7-8. So they were still in it. They were still, they still had a chance to, maybe sneak into the playoffs. And then the Giants put up 45 points against them. The Colts defense, they let the Giants have almost 400 yards of total offense. The Giants averaged 7.3 yards per play. Drew Lock had a day. 4 touchdown passes in the game. And a rushing touchdown. Malik Neighbors, 171 yards. 2 touchdowns in the game. Now, the Colts did put up over 400 yards of total offense in the game. Jonathan Taylor, over 100 yards, rushing and 2 touchdowns. But what an embarrassing loss there. And then Flacco played the final game of the regular season, and the Colts won that. So they finished 8-9 on the year. And looking at the stats, Anthony Richardson, his completion percentage was not great. He only had 1,800 yards passing, 8 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Flacco was better, had a better passer rating, or quarterback rating, had a better touchdown interception ratio. Had around the same passing yards as Anthony Richardson. Yeah, it was not great. And then, Jonathan Taylor had a solid year, 11 touchdowns, 1,400 yards rushing. Anthony Richardson did have 6 touchdown runs, 499 yards rushing. Alec Pierce was their leading receiver. He had 824 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. Michael Pittman had 3 touchdowns. He had 800 yards receiving. And Josh Downs also had 800 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. So the Colts have a good, young receiving core. We'll see if they add another weapon, but, they do have a good receiving core. Zaire Franklin was their leading tackler, of course, on defense. He had 3.5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. Their sacks leader, Kwity Paye, had 8. DeForest Buckner had 6.5. So they were a team that did get after the quarterback. You look at their defensive rankings. Against the pass, they were not good. Total yards allowed per game, they were 29th. They were 24th in points allowed per game. They were 26th in passing yards allowed per game and 24th in rushing yards allowed per game. But they were 24th in sacks. I thought they'd be a little bit higher, but I guess not. Interceptions, actually, they were 5th. But, the defense was not great. Now, they did go out and improve the secondary. They signed Charvarius Ward from the 49ers. Defense needs improvement. And then offensively, they were 13th in total yards per game, 17th in points per game. So the offense wasn't, Anthony Richardson was not great, but throwing the football, because they ranked 25th in passing yards per game. But, running the football, they were top 10. Points per game, like I said, middle of the pack, and that in total yards per game. They did lose some guys on the offensive line, so hopefully, they can replace them. But, you have Quentin Nelson, who's, still one of the best offensive lines in the league. But, the Colts went out in free agency, and like I said, they signed Charvarius Ward. They signed Cameron Bynum. They signed Khalil Herbert to back up Jonathan Taylor. Who else did they sign? Oh, yeah. And they also signed Daniel Jones. So obviously defense, I think, is something they could definitely address in the draft. That's probably what they will do maybe with their first pick. Or maybe they go offensive line since they lost, some guys on the line. But, running back, they're fine. Receiver, I don't think they should go with receiver. Maybe they draft a tight end. But I don't think they're going – maybe they draft a quarterback in the later rounds, but I don't know. This is going to be a big year. I think they go defense in the draft. Quarterback position. When it comes to Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, the Colts said that they wanted to bring in competition for Anthony Richardson. And they brought in Daniel Jones. They gave him a 1 year. I think it was $14 million. And I would not be surprised if Daniel Jones ends up being the starter at some point during the year. I would not be surprised. If Anthony Richardson struggles, they'll pull the plug on him and put in Daniel Jones. Now, does that mean Daniel Jones is going to go out there and play really well? Not necessarily. But Daniel Jones, when he has played well, it's usually when he has a good running game. Now, Jonathan Taylor is not Saquon Barkley, but Jonathan Taylor is a pretty good running back. So that could definitely, benefit Daniel Jones if he steps in. And, he's a mobile quarterback himself. And they got decent weapons. The offensive line needs some revamping now. But Daniel Jones could definitely step in, and this would be a much better situation than, with the Giants, the last couple of years. So Anthony Richardson, it's up to him to say, no, you're not taking my job. And he goes out there and he shows that, hey, I'm the guy in Indy. And the Colts, they have failed to find that replacement. They were hoping it's going to be Anthony Richardson, and right now it doesn't look like that. But I thought he did show you something when he came back from being benched. I thought he played better, but, he's still got more to learn. And I think he was working out with Josh Allen. This offseason, he's putting his head down, and you hope that he puts in the work and then he comes out and is a different guy. I think we could see that. I think we could see a different version of Anthony Richardson next year. And especially, when you had him tapping out of the game, that was a bad look for him. And I think he definitely learned a lot from that, letting Flacco start. It was good that you had Joe Flacco, an experienced veteran there. Hopefully he learns from this because the talent is there. Like I said, guy could chuck the ball 60 yards down the field, no problem. Guy's a big quarterback that can, be mobile, and you don't want him to take too many hits because that's kind of why he got hurt his rookie season. And, you think about Cam Newton and the amount of hits he took when he would take off and run with the football. And, you've seen that with Josh Allen. I hope Anthony Richardson does pan out. My friends were big Anthony Richardson guys. Now they're all kind of jumped off of that bandwagon. So, we'll see what happens. But like I said, this is a big year for Anthony Richardson. It's a huge year. So we'll see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Colts season. They finished 8-9. I think I had them at 9-8, so I had them around, the same record. But, I was hoping for a better year out of Anthony Richardson, and we didn't get that. But, yeah, the Colts offensive line needs some work. We'll see what happens with the quarterback. Defense, I think, is the main priority with the draft. They got to improve it. And, they did do that. Like I said, they signed a couple of guys in the secondary. So, we'll see how it goes. But that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Make sure to check out all the other shows on the network. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to them. Also, subscribe to the channels. Make sure to check us out wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to listen to us on the go, we greatly appreciate that. And, as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit.